Coming up, going to class might seem easy for most people, but for students with disabilities at UNC, it can be harder than you think.
And we're less than 2 weeks away from the midterm elections, but you can beat the crowd and cast your vote right now. We'll tell you how.
Still looking for a Halloween costume? UNC students answer the question on everyone's minds. What will you dress up as next week?
From the UNC School of Media and Journalism, connecting Carolina's campus and community, this is Carolina Week.
Good afternoon and welcome to Carolina Week. I'm Emily Wakeman.
And I'm Madison Forsey. Our top story tonight, accessibility on campus. UNC has resources available for those with special needs, but some still find accessibility on campus concerning. Reporter Mariam Mohammed is live at the Smith Building with more on this issue. Mariam, is UNC truly accessible?
Madison, I'm standing in front of one of the buildings on campus that are presently handicap inaccessible. It's a Women and Gender Studies building here at UNC, so if you need to get into this building for whatever reason and happen to be a student with disabilities, you just won't be able to do that. You would need to contact ARS, the Accessibility Resources Office on campus, for them to move your classroom into a building that's handicap accessible. According to the American with Disabilities Act, older buildings such as this one are considered historical and don't need to meet the same accessibility requirements as newer buildings. UNC student Jason Atkins is taking 5 classes this semester, but he says getting around campus can be harder than it should be.
My biggest complaint is that there's several times whenever I've went up to a building and the handicap button not work, especially at Lenoir.
He's reported this problem to a maintenance employee but has had no luck.
And they say that, oh yes, we'll get it fixed, but sometimes I'll come back the next day and it works. And then I come back the next day and it doesn't work again.
He says while the university tries its best to be accommodating, the age of some of the buildings can still pose a problem to those with disabilities. Rowan Abesi says students removing bricks from walkways unnecessarily contributes to campus inaccessibility.
For my sister, if she, tips over too much forward, she can't bring herself back up. She doesn't have the strength to do that. So if for some reason she was on a sidewalk or a walkway that caused her to go like this, who knows what could happen.
She says students with disabilities are as equally important as every other student on campus and deserve the same resources.
I see my sister in those kids, and I see that, the future is becoming more accessible.
Although the university has taken steps to accommodate those with special needs, there's still some basic utilities that aren't accessible at all.
It is my responsibility to let the university and those like an ARS know what I need, and I believe that it is their responsibility to take it from there.
Meanwhile, Atkins says there's still an inconsistency with accessibility on campus. Just yesterday, he tried to go into Lenoir and found that the button outside was not working. He went back at a later time and found that it was. Live in Chapel Hill, Mariam Mohammed, Carolina Week.
Mariam Mohammed reporting live for us. Thank you so much, Mariam. Well, early voting for the midterm elections is Democrats and Republicans are turning out in waves to vote. More than 450,000 North Carolinians have already cast their vote since early voting started on Saturday. So far, voter turnout for this midterm election is neck and neck with the 2016 presidential election, which had a turnout of 410,000 in the first 4 days. There are 5 early voting locations in Orange County, one at Chapel of the Cross Church on Franklin Street, where many residents have been casting their votes already. Races for the U.S. House, State Senate, State House, and State Supreme Court are all on the ballot this year.
I think our state legislature just doesn't represent our values, so I'm here to vote for folks who will.
Early voting ends next Saturday, November 3rd, but you can register day of at any polling location with a valid form of ID.
Early voters in Chapel Hill not only get to vote on their state representatives, but also on issues much closer to home. Chapel Hill residents are getting their say in a proposed $10 million affordable housing bond. The bond would allow the town of Chapel Hill to build around 400 new affordable homes and maintain the 300 already built. Last year, Chapel Hill voted on a $6.2 million housing bond. If passed, this housing bond would be the latest push and initiative to make Chapel Hill a more livable community for everyone. Right now in Chapel Hill, 75% of existing housing is considered not affordable.
Well, it's called a news desert. It's an area where there is no news coverage. And according to a new study from UNC's School of Media and Journalism, there are more news deserts in this country than you might think. Reporter Brighton McConnell is in the studio to tell us more about the study.
That's right, Madison, and I want to take a second and explain what exactly it means when there is a news desert. The UNC group who conducted this study describes news deserts as phenomenons when areas or communities have limited to no access of credible or informative local coverage. The study itself delves due to the closing of local newspapers and lack of reach by other forms of coverage too. So as more papers close, the more news gets condensed down in certain areas, leaving communities with less real news coverage. Now let's take a look at this map here published by the study. It looks at how since 2004 over 1,800 newspapers have closed, and as you can see, many of them are weekly, but there are even some daily ones in here. Those are the blue dots, where the weekly ones are orange. You see a lot of areas here in the south, up in the northeast, and over here in the Rust Belt that have had a bunch of newspapers close. Now, the next map is a little bigger because it's going to be taking a look at every single county in the U.S., and this shows the green counties are ones that have more than one paper that reaches them or provides news coverage for that region. And the orange counties, which you see a lot of here in the Midwest and also in the South, are ones that only have one newspaper or any sort of local coverage that covers that area. And you also see a smattering of red here too, which means that they've got no publication covering local news in that area. And so when I talked with the director of the study, Penny Muse Abernathy, she said there are some clear cultural trends that result from these newspapers closing down.
Have shown that newspapers have historically been community builders, as well as educators. They educate us in a democracy about what the important issues are, who's most likely as an elected official to agree with us on certain issues or to have thought ahead about what's important for us as a community. So when you lose a newspaper, you often lose that social cohesion.
Abernathy says that other forms of media are stepping in to try and fill the void of coverage in some areas, but with the newspaper industry's current track, there's risk of this continuing to happen over the next decade. Madison?
Sadly, the rides and fried food have left town, but even with the first day being canceled due to Hurricane Michael, the state fair did not fail to bring thousands of people to the Triangle area. This year, more than 977,000 people came to the fairgrounds. Although this is about 40,000 people less than last year, the number of people who came on Friday and Sunday this year beat previous records. No word yet on how much money the fair pulled in this year, but in recent years, revenue has been around $11 million. That money goes towards maintaining and improving the fairgrounds.
And Emily, the weather lately has been so nice, but you know, sometimes you never know, you might wake up, it could be freezing cold or really hot.
I know, you gotta love that North Carolina weather.
Absolutely.
Jordan can help us clear things up. He's got our first look at the weather.
Thanks, Madison. Right now, temperatures are in the upper 50s and it's clear and sunny outside. It'll stay clear and sunny, but the temperatures will certainly drop. We'll tell you just how low they'll drop coming up in full weather right after the break.
Todd's a great guy. I mean, look at him. What a sweetheart. Attaboy. Wait, Todd, what are you doing? How totally selfish and un-Todd-like of you. Come on, Todd. Come on, man.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Label me.
You know you want to.
Don't be shy.
You do it behind my back.
So say it to my face.
You don't know me.
You know what I am?
I'm a pitcher.
I'm a striker.
I'm a point guard.
I'm a linebacker.
I'm a setter.
Shortstop.
High jumper.
Wrestler.
Defender.
Goalie.
Student.
Student athletes.
That's who we are.
See on page 4 that the projections need to be blood. Next Thursday?
Seriously? Thursday? Can't do that.
This is really inconvenient.
I have yoga that day. I have no time for this. So.
I can't do Thursday, but I can do Friday.
Disasters don't plan ahead. You can. Talk to your loved ones about how you're going to be ready in an emergency. Don't wait. Communicate.
The Daily Tar Heel is having financial issues like many student newspapers across the country. But could merging with the university help keep the paper afloat? Reporter Kimothy Jones has the story.
Rachel Jones is the editor-in-chief of the Daily Tar Heel. Like any journalist, Jones enjoys working at a paper that she says gives her the freedom to cover what she wants.
Something that we really value here at the Daily Tar Heel and that we've maintained for the past several decades is complete editorial independence.
Though the paper is prestigious, the Daily Tar Heel is going through a financial crisis. Printing is expensive, and advertising revenue is down. The money troubles have led to the paper cutting staff and moving from their bigger offices on East Rosemary Street to a much smaller but affordable space on East Franklin Street. The money troubles have also led to whispers about merging the Daily Tar Heel with the UNC School of Media and Journalism, which theoretically could save the paper in the future. But Jones says keeping the paper's independence is important, and being a part of the university would bring lots of problems in covering certain controversial stories.
We do a lot of reporting on UNC and the ways that UNC screws up, you know? It's the biggest institution of power that and therefore it's the institution that we kind of run into the most conflict with.
UNC School of Media and Journalism Dean Susan King says there have been no talks with the Daily Tar Heel about a merger, but gave suggestions she's heard from alums in lieu of one.
Maybe it has to go back to those days when student fees brought in the money for the DTH, when students did not get paid, when there were no paid members of the staff.
To help cut costs, the DTH has gone from printing 5 days a week now down to only 3 days a week. The more recent DTHs are now even smaller than the originals, also to help save money. Maya Ward, a university desk reporter for the Daily Tar Heel, has written an article on the school dealing with sexual assault on campus. Ward feels not only could being a part of the university make covering stories more difficult, but it could also ruin the paper's integrity.
So I think it would lead our readership to question where our intentions are coming from.
But money troubles or not, Jones says she does not want to merge with the university, and freedom is important for the paper to thrive as much as money.
The only real upside that I would see would be the financial security, and that's a giant upside. But I don't think that it's worth the loss of freedom and independence.
In Chapel Hill, I'm Kimothy Jones Jr. reporting.
And Kimothy will join us again a little later for Carolina Week Sports.
Halloween's almost here, which means many students are already making plans for their usual pilgrimage to Franklin Street. Reporter Trisha Bonthu joins us live with what you need to know if you're planning on going. Trisha?
I'm here to tell you everything you need to know about homegrown Halloween on Franklin Street. First things first, there will be roads closed off so that we can have our festivities on Franklin Street. So Franklin Street will be closed off starting from Church Street up until Raleigh Street, and Raleigh Street will also be closed off from Rosemary up until South Road. This will start around 8 p.m. and go up until 10:30. Feeder roads that you need to keep in mind that will be closed off even earlier. So here are some roads on campus that will be closed off. So if you usually drive through here, it might not be an option for that night. So starting around 5 p.m. up until midnight, or some of them, even one of them is up. Stadium Drive will be closed until 1:30 a.m. So this is something to keep in mind. So Cameron Avenue, South Road, Stadium Drive, the more popular roads on campus will be closed or have limited traffic and parking. So if you do plan to park on campus, there won't be many options. So a lot of the campus lots will require weekday permits starting from 7:30 Wednesday until 2 a.m. on Thursday. So usually there's free parking starting at 5 p.m., but that won't be an option for that night. On top of that, if you have a guest coming in for UNC, they can park at Rams Deck for $20 starting at 6 p.m., but until 7:30 a.m. on Thursday, where they'll have to pay an hourly rate of $175 per hour. And if you're going to be participating in the festivities on Franklin Street, there are a number of items that you need to keep away, including unlicensed drones and costume items that look like weapons. So even if it's not a weapon necessarily, if it's sharp or if it even resembles anything such as a foam sword, even looking as if it could be a weapon, it will be taken away and put into a yellow bin that they have around there. So you'll want to keep those kind of costumes away. So if you're planning on maybe being a Jedi for Star Wars, might not be an option. On top of that, glass bottles and alcoholic beverages will not be allowed, paint, fireworks, and explosives. And if you're planning on bringing your pet in a cute costume, it might not be the night for that because animals will also not be allowed. Homegrown Halloween is one of the biggest nights for Carolina students and locals alike. Every year, 20,000 to 40,000 people come out to show off their costumes and meet new people. This Halloween, the town of Chapel Hill has employed almost 200 public safety officers and has established alcohol checkpoints to keep everyone safe. And that's what you need to know about Homegrown Halloween on Franklin Street. Back to you.
Thanks, Trisha. Halloween's a week away, but what can we expect weather-wise in the meantime? Let's go to Adam Jordan to find out.
Just a quick look at the rest of your Wednesday. We got up to a high of 60 degrees today, but not too much more than that, and it's going to just get colder as the evening goes on into the mid to lower 40s. But tonight is going to be the real story. It's going to be down to around 34, maybe even a little bit lower in spots. In fact, there's a bit of concern of frost out there. So if you have any plants or sensitive flowers, anything like that, just make sure that you get those inside to avoid any of the frost issues. It is going to be a cold one tonight, probably the coldest that we'll see all week. A quick look at the radar, nothing to speak of. It's going to be clear and sunny for the rest of your afternoon, and it's clear looking into the evening, but it's not going to stay that way for the rest of the week into your weekend. So we get a look at our Tropical Tidbits Futurecast. We get a look at the GFS American model as to what the next week or so going into your weekend is going to look like. We have here the remnants of Tropical Storm Willa that hit the southwest coast of Mexico, coming up into the Gulf of Mexico and becoming the first real nor'easter of this fall-winter season as we get into that meteorological time frame, and that could bring quite a bit of rain coming for your Friday and Saturday. In fact, let's get a look at our Franklin Street forecast for the rest of the week. There is that frost advisory, not an official National Weather Service advisory, but something to look out for tonight. Friday, we're looking at those rain showers coming down, and they should linger a bit into Saturday. Sunday, it's still going to be cold, mostly cloudy, but things will start to clear up a bit. A chance of a sprinkle or two on Monday, but going into your next week, it's going to look very nice and sunny, clear, just a lot like it was today. Well, that's your Franklin Street forecast. Back to you.
Coming up, the men's soccer team looked to take care of business during the Battles of the Blues. And hear about the hockey version of the Backyard Brawl. That and much more when Carolina Week returns.
Open up your books to page 360.
Did you just look at your phone while you was in class? You played yourself.
about inspirational quotes.
You gotta believe in yourself. Don't ever play yourself. The key is to make it, so make it.
Louise, can you give me an example of an inspirational quote?
Don't play yourself. The key is to make it.
And who said that?
I did. Now that's a major key alert.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at getschool.com.
everybody.
Light check. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Everything looks good on our end.
And lights.
Come alive with the forest. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
Welcome to Carolina Week Sports. I'm Timothy Jones Jr. With the football team disappointing Tar Heel fans on the gridiron, basketball season will be a sight for sore eyes. And now we know where the Tar Heels will begin their journey in the top 25. With college basketball coming in less than 2 weeks, the first AP poll of the season was released on Monday. The poll has Carolina ranked 8th, which is behind arch rival Duke and ACC foe Virginia, who are ranked 4th and 5th, respectively. But don't worry, Tar Heel fans, a top 10 ranking to start the season is just fine. And the Tar Heels have plenty of games to prove that they should be ranked even higher, perhaps number 1 when it's all said and done. Inside Carolina also reported yesterday that Carolina senior forward Luke May has been named to the AP preseason All-American First Team. It was the Battle of the Blues as the men's soccer team traveled into enemy territory to face Duke Tuesday night. UNC keeper James Pyle led the way in the first half. He had 2 saves and cut off numerous crosses. Scoring came in the second half during the 56th minute with that man, Jack Skayan, putting away the only goal of the night. This beautiful chip over Duke's Will Pulisic is just awesome. This was Skayan's 5th goal in 3 games. The 1-0 win earned the Heels the ACC Coastal Division title. The team will face Virginia on Friday. What's better than a good rivalry? UNC's club hockey team took the ice to battle it out against NC State this past Monday. Hundreds of fans filed into the PNC Arena in Raleigh to watch the 3rd annual Backyard Brawl. UNC's hockey team has been gaining recognition, bringing varsity-sized crowds to watch the university-recognized club sport. Although UNC did not come away with the win, boosters are still there to support the fundraising for the team and by selling merchandise to raise awareness for the club. Hockey booster Jack Reel talks about the importance of raising money for this team.
I think it's important to give back to the kids and show them that there are alumni out there who care and to try and make the team as like a rewarding experience as possible for them.
You have another chance to see the Backyard Brawl on November 19th. It's no secret that UNC has some incredible athletes. For their 4 years here, they are in the spotlight, traveling to games and balancing schoolwork. But what is life like after UNC? Reporter Jillian Kuhn caught up with one UNC golf alum who's trying to make it big.
As Will Register transitions from being a college golfer to a full-fledged pro, he says he's grateful for UNC's men's golf program, the program that raised him.
Just everything about college, how we practice, stuff the coaches taught me, stuff I learned about my game and how to play, that all factored into helping me get to here, I think.
With the PGA Tour Canada under his belt, Will is currently in qualifying school for the Web.com Tour. Caddy and longtime friend Matthew Kuhn says Will's diligent attitude fuels his success.
I think his greatest asset is probably his work ethic. Back at school, he was always at the golf course and really managed his time well. So now that he's a professional, I think that's going to help him tremendously.
Will has obviously had a very strong start to his professional career. He broke down the specifics of his impressive journey so far.
So the point of playing on PGA Tour Canada basically is to try to get onto the Web.com tour, which is like the mid-level tour. So you start out PGA Tour Canada, that can help you get status on Web.com. If you don't get status through Canada, then you go to qualifying school for Web.com.
We'll be cheering on this fellow Tar Heel as he heads to Florida in a few short weeks to continue qualifying school. In Chapel Hill, I'm Jillian Kuhn, Carolina Week.
Will is excited to be back in Chapel Hill briefly, where he'll be playing in the Executive Cup, heading back to Florida. That's it for sports, Tar Heels fans. Now let's go now to Emily Coker with our community calendar.
This weekend is the last weekend before Halloween. The ways that you can celebrate out in the community. First is Barktoberfest, where you can hang out with puppies in costumes this Saturday from 2:30 to 7 at Durham Central Park. It's a free event with a lot of different activities and features animal rescues from the surrounding area if you are interested in fostering or adopting. Next is the 33rd Annual International Festival in Raleigh, where over 50 local ethnic communities come together with international food, performances, art, and exhibits. It is this Friday to Sunday from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the Raleigh Convention Center. Adult tickets are $10. And finally, for the spookiest event of them all, the Haunted Mordecai Festival is this Saturday from 1 to 4 p.m. It will be at the historic Mordecai site, and you can explore the paranormal activity that has been found at the Mordecai house, as well as partake in other fun, less spooky Halloween activities. Best of all, it's free. So that's what's going on outside of Carolina. Be sure to tune in next week to add to your community calendar.
And when you're a kid, Halloween is definitely all about the trick-or-treating.
But when you're too old to go door to door, dressing up and hitting the town can be just as exciting.
Halloween is next week, which means thousands of people will come to Chapel Hill to celebrate. So we're asking students, what are you dressing up as for Halloween?
Pine tree.
The Wicked Witch from The Wizard of Oz.
I'm going to be wearing a piece of white cloth and then being a piece of sheep.
I'm going to be an identity thief.
My friend and I are dressing up as the white and gold, black or blue dress.
Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses.
The Greatest Showman.
Reporting from Chapel Hill, Tess Bettinsoli, Carolina Week.
So this year I'm more excited than ever because it'll be my first time celebrating Halloween on Franklin Street.
Oh my gosh, I cannot believe you've never been to Franklin Street for Halloween, but you will not be disappointed. It is awesome.
Any big plans?
Oh, just dressing up and people watching on Franklin. That's about it. But thank you so much for joining us today at Carolina Week.
Have a great night.